Joining us right now is the chairman of the Republican National Committee, Reince Priebus. Chairman Priebus, thanks for joining us.
Larry.
So I want you to hear once again, it's the great one. He's our colleague here on MAL. He had this to say yesterday.
These GOP actors are hoping for a Cuccinelli loss and a big Chris Christie win.
And he went further, Chairman Priebus, and specifically said,
the GOP national machine has done next to nothing for Cuccinelli.
All right, Reince Priebus, this is your chance to respond.
Well, you can follow the money all the way to the Virginia GOP from the RNC. So if you think that those victory centers and employees and all of the payments that go in to run the ground game are falling from the sky, I guess the truth will set us free, but I'm not worried about that.
Well, Chairman Priebus, before you do, I just wanted to narrow down on this a little bit because we had reports about a month and a half ago that the state GOP in Virginia was taking money, and that money that you just talked about, they're sending it down ticket. They weren't giving it to Cuccinelli when he needed it most, when he was behind in the polls. And also, there's a real comparison to the support given Chris Christie in New Jersey, who frankly hasn't needed it at all for the whole the entire campaign. Why is the National Party giving money to Christie, who doesn't need it, and why weren't they giving more to Cuccinelli?
Well, first of all, we did over $3 million to Cuccinelli. So, I mean, to pay for the ground game that the victory centers, the employees, the people that do all of the field work, the data that we get, the door knocks, that's all for Ken Cuccinelli. Sure, it's for Mark Obenchain, too, but it's for the Republican ticket, and it's paid for by the Republican National Committee. Our charge is to pay for the ground game in Virginia, and that's exactly what we did. And I will tell you that Ken himself will tell you that the ground game in Virginia is better than it was when Mitt Romney was on the ticket. It's the best ground game he's ever seen. So every opportunity that we've been asked to help out that campaign, we did, and I'm excited for today because I think that he's got a real good opportunity to win. We spent the day, or at least some part of the day on Saturday together.
Right.
And as far as New Jersey is concerned, about half of what we paid in Virginia. But the reason why you have to run the ground game in New Jersey is it's the charge of the Republican National Committee to coordinate with state parties to help run the ground game. That's all of it. Like I said before, it's all of the work, the engagement in Hispanic, African American,
right.
Asian communities. If we don't do it, Larry, there isn't anyone that can do it in New Jersey specifically because their campaign finance laws don't allow for the RGA to come into New Jersey and take soft money, corporate money, and spend it in New Jersey. So if we don't do it, nobody does.
Well,
in New Jersey, it's the opposite situation. They can take unlimited money in Virginia, and taking hard regulated money into Virginia is obviously not as good as taking soft money in Virginia. But nevertheless, we still spent over $3 million in Virginia.
All right, let me move on if I could, because you've got this ground game on the ground in the Commonwealth. What is it telling you about voter turnout, and are there any problems that are cropping up around the state that concern you?
No, actually, as far as the ground game itself goes and IDing Republican voters and making sure that they vote, that's what the ground game is supposed to do. I think everyone feels great about where we're at on the ground. I think we feel good, especially where we have to be strong, and the percentages are very high. As far as our own turnout and our own party IDs, we feel very good. Now, whether or not it's enough to win, I'm feeling pretty positive, but obviously the proof is going to be in the pudding tonight.
How difficult was it to run a campaign in Virginia for governor when you're going up against Terry McAuliffe, who outspent your candidate 10-1 on TV ads?
Well, it's very frustrating, but that's where soft money, not hard federal committee money, comes in. And that's where a lot of the groups out there that raise that kind of money need to play in Virginia on television. When you look at Terry McAuliffe, it's not the DNC that's buying ads on TV, guys. It's Bloomberg. It's all of these soft money groups that are buying television ads. And that's where we have to have participation. And you can't expect the GOP to just fund with limited dollars an operation against soft money groups. But that being the case, Ken is a fighter. Ken has always been outspent, and Ken always has won. So, money doesn't always predict the outcome. And I've got a good feeling about Ken's closing argument here over the last few days, and I think Obamacare blew up, and it's only going to help Ken Cuccinelli because Terry is all about it, and that's a very big referendum on the ticket today.
Reince Priebus is our guest. He's the chairman of the Republican National Committee. There's two sort of media memes going on out there looking at the Virginia race. One of them is if McAuliffe wins, it's a referendum on Hillary for 2016. And the second is if Cuccinelli doesn't win, that's a referendum on the Tea Party. What do you say to those?
No, I don't think so. I think everything's, I think that all of these races have their own unique set of circumstances that all factor into the outcome. You can talk about money. You can talk about the fact that it was Obamacare that helped Ken. You can pick any data point out and extrapolate it to the moon. But I think we want to wait and see what happens. And like I said before, I don't think the Obamacare issue could have come at a more perfect moment for Ken Cuccinelli, who was the first Attorney General in America, to actually file a lawsuit to stop it. I think that's a very good case, and I think people have heard it.
Okay.
I think that's what's important.
Great. Chairman Reince Priebus, we know you have a busy day today with all the elections going on. We appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Also,
Bye-bye.
want to let you know, coming up right after the Wall Street Journal report with Patrice Sikora, we're going to be joined by one of our listeners, Mark Levin.
You heard what Reince Priebus had to say. Mark Levin immediately picked up the phone, and he had something he wanted to add to that conversation. Hello, Mr. Levin. How are you today?
Hey, boys. I happen to live in this state.
Yeah.
So I happen to see what's going on. I happen to be at these rallies where none of the RNC upper staff take time. Why? We have 50 state races going on here. We have one competitive state. They're talking about $3 million they've spent here. That $3 million was primarily authorized and has been spent as a result of a report they put out after the election. You remember? Where they did an anal exam of themselves and they said, we need to have offices in minority areres. And
The autopsy they did.
That has nothing to do with turning out the vote on Election Day. You know who's manning the polls I voted at? My neighbors. You know who's getting people out here? Church groups, Tea Party groups, activists, conservatives, taxpayer activists. That's who. The RNC isn't anywhere here. They haven't been on the air. It is infuriating to me. Is this what the Republican Party's going to do when it comes to the next big election? They are fooling themselves.
Mark Levin, the big question here then is how does it compare to what kind of get-out-the-vote effort Terry McAuliffe is getting from the DNC? I mean, what is the DNC doing for Terry that you see out there?
Listen, all this stuff is great for tomorrow. My attitude today is get off your ass and vote. I don't care what Larry Sabato has to say. I don't care what Real Clear Politics has to say. Reince Priebus showing up the weekend before like he did in New Jersey. In case there's a victory, he could talk about his great ground game. And if there isn't, complain about the candidate. I am sick and tired of these guys positioning themselves. I live in this state. I purposely don't live in Maryland. This is a relatively free state, and it will cease to be so if they win. So my advice is, forget about all the status. Get off your ass and vote.
All right.
Well, and could you tell us what you really think?
As far as Reince Priebus goes, how about a little bit of truth, pal? How about a little bit of truth?
All right, Mark Levin already on fire, and you know he'll be on fire from 6 to 9 tonight. He'll be doing, of course, the Mark Levin Show, but then covering the election here on